for that one? Don't make posturations, please.
因为今天的问题的纸张很多，那我们就先跟那个今天的这个自他相关的这个课程有关系的当做优先，然后后面个别性的问题我们再看到后面啊。
第一个问题是怎么样避免禅修以及观想时昏沉状况。The first question is how to avoid sleepiness when you do meditation.
Coffee? Tibetans tend to drink a lot of tea. Snuff. I think that the best thing is to go to bed quite early so that you can wake up early with lots of energy.
我觉得最好的方式呢，就是你可以早睡，然后呢，早睡早起，这样你在早上起来的时候呢，就会很有活力。
Yes. I'm happy to see a lot of people agreeing.
我高兴呢，看到很多人就是点头同意。那第二个问题是，上师示现命相是带众生受苦，怎么理解 ？Okay, the next question is when a lama is sick and you will try to perceive that's a manifestation, and it's the guru who want to take the suffering of beings. How do you understand this?
Wait, say that again.
When there's a word, there's a saying that when the lama or guru manifests to becomes sick, it's a way to take a suffering of sentient beings. Mm-hmm. How do you understand this?
So, we have, let's say, negative karma. And that negative karma is going to manifest in the form of some kind of difficulty for us.
我们每一个人都有恶业，那这种恶业呢，就会以这种，就是会让我们出现障碍的这种形式来显现。
When the Lama gets sick, that is some kind of difficulty for us.
当一个上师生病的时候呢，那个对我们来说呢，就是对我们来说就是一种障碍，还是相对于我们的障碍。
So, if we view it properly and we if our attitude is correct, then the Lama's illness is in fact removing the cause for us to suffer.
如果我们呢用正确的态度来看待上师生病这件事情的话呢，那的确的，上师生病呢是帮助我们呢去除我们的这个苦因。
Or let's say dissolving the cause for us to suffer.
就是让我们这个苦因能够消融掉。那下一个问题是，为什么修自他换的教授是在禁律品里面 ？Okay. So the question is, why is the teaching of the exchange of self and others happened why is it in the 8th chapter, the chapter of calm abiding? Why is this not teaching here in that particular chapter?
I don't know. You'll have to ask Shantideva.
不知道，你要去问吉田菩萨。下一个问题是，心理学多主张先把自己照顾好，再去帮助别人，先爱自己，才能去爱别人，这样心理比较健康。请问这是否与自爱这是否与舍去自爱子有所矛盾 ？So according to the modern psychology, before you it suggests that before you go out to help others, you should first take care of yourself first. And before you love others, you should love yourself first. And in this way, you will have gained more mental health. And in this particular point of view, contradict with the point that you should discard self-cherishing.
The whole idea of loving yourself, when we talk about it from Western psychology, I think means taking good care of yourself.
当我们在谈论这个西方的心理学的时候，当他谈到说你爱自己的时候呢，他指的是你要把自己照顾好。
Mentally and physically caring for yourself.
就是在心理上以及生理上呢，把你自己照料好。
Only when you take good care of yourself and you are mentally and physically fit can you really be helpful to others.
就是唯有把你自己的身心状况都照料好以后，这个时候呢，你才有办法去帮助别人。
I don't think that contradicts the idea. We're not talking about self-cherishing. We're talking about healthy behavior, physical and mental healthy behavior.
我不认为这个跟所谓的这个舍弃自爱子有所矛盾。我这边在谈的是那个健康的身心状态。
I think that
健康的身心的行为。
people talk about compassion, and they talk about we should have compassion for ourselves. There, I think we're going a little bit too far.
所以，但是呢，另一方面呢，有些人会说，当他们谈论悲心的时候，他们会说我们应该对自己有悲心。当你这么说的时候，我觉得这个有点走得太远了。
I was on a part of a panel at some public event, and was asked to talk about compassion. And one of my fellow panelists, who was a Buddhist monk, said, well, how about compassion for yourself? And I said, compassion is the wish to remove the suffering of others. Let's not apply that to ourselves. A wish to remove our own suffering is not compassion.
就是说，有一次呢，我担任一个就是谈论这个悲心的这个会议的这个筹备小组。在我这个筹备小组里面，有另一个成员呢，也是一个出家众。 那有一天的这个出家众就跟我讲说，就是说你应该，当你谈到悲心的时候呢，你应该是对自己修悲心。啊，这时候你跟仁波切就回说，这个不叫悲心，为什么呢？因为悲心，所谓的悲心呢，是希望别人离苦，那希望自己离苦呢，这个不叫做悲心。
The wish to remove our own suffering is part of renunciation. It's the attitude with which we enter the spiritual path.
那希望自己能够脱离痛苦呢，那是出离心的一个部分。那是我们那这种出离心呢，是让我们进入这个精神修行道路的一个开始。下一个问题是，一切的衰损都是由于我爱执产生。那么阿罗汉也是因为我爱执而产生出离心。那这样的话，为什么阿罗汉可以得到这个决定胜的果位呢？ The next question is, if all the sufferings, all the obstacles come from self-cherishing. On the other hand, we learned that Arhat, when he generated renunciation, that is, the renunciation is also based on self-cherishing. So in that case, why self-cherishing in this particular case can lead Arhat to achieve the Arhathood?
Why does self-cherishing? I don't think that the Arhat is motivated by self-cherishing. The Arhat is motivated by a wish to be free of any of his afflictions.
我不认为呢，阿罗汉的那个出离心呢是来自于爱我执，阿罗汉出离心呢是来自于他希望呢能够远离所有的烦恼。
There is an element of self-grasping that remains in the Arhat, but his motivation is not self-cherishing. It is what we would call renunciation.
的确的，在阿罗汉这个出离心的背后呢，的确有一点这个我执的成分存在我执的那种成分的存在，但是呢，我不会称之为我爱执，而是会称之为出离心。下一个问题是，当观想母亲的时候，我升起的只是这边我们做一点修正，把这个问题简短，把这个问题缩短。当观想母亲的时候，我升起的只是痛苦以及生气，怎么办？那视为别人的母亲呢，我感到亲切与温暖，即使是受累的母亲，那可以改视为别人的母亲吗？这是李学长说的说法。So the question is, when we reflect the kindness of mother or mother, when I reflect the kindness of a mother, what arises in my mind is pain and anger. And then how do I deal with that? On the other hand, when I think of other people's mother, I feel close and warm, and then even the mother is some animal. So can I change the object of my reflection to other people's mother?
I think that would be best.
我认为这会是最好的。 下一个问题是在自他相换中观想他人痛苦为自己的痛苦，会感到害怕。那种现象是伤到我爱值吗？还是只是自己发现的我爱值？如果不再感到害怕，是否没有我爱值了呢？ So in the practice of exchange of self and others, when you take the suffering from other beings, and when I do so, I feel fearful. I have fear. When I visualize taking the pain and suffering from others, I have some fear in my mind. And this kind of does that mean this is harming my self-cherishing attitude, or is it simply that I discover my own self-cherishing?
That I simply.
In this case, when I have fear in taking pain from others, does that mean it's harm the rising of fear means that it harms my self-cherishing attitude, or it means or it just imply I discover my own self-cherishing? Is harming, or is it simply I discover my this kind of self-cherishing attitude in my own?
Yes, I think that fear of assuming others' suffering is in fact does probably arise from some sense of self-cherishing.
的确的，我认为呢，当你观想许受别人痛苦的时候，然后心中产生害怕的话，那这种害怕的确是来自于某种程度的这种自爱值。
However, it is an indication that we are doing the meditation correctly.
那可是另一方面呢，这种害怕的产生呢，另一方面也意味着，就是说我们是用正确的方式在做修持，来对身体这种现象。然后呢 ，the last part of this question， 如果不再感到害怕，是否没有我爱值了？ If I no longer have fear, does that mean I have get rid of self-cherishing?
You mean in general, or when we're doing this meditation?
这是在那个天主不见问世是说这是泛的普遍的来讲的吗？还是这个有什么特别的意思？就是当你说是否已经没有我爱值的时候，这个你那个深度这个问题普遍来讲 in general.
If we have removed fear in general, I think that if there is no basis for fear, then we're doing a pretty good job along the path of removing self-cherishing. Yeah.
如果你已经没有这个恐惧升起的基础的话，这个表示呢，我们在这个修行的道上已经进展得非常好了。
I think that as long as we have some self-cherishing, when we go into scary situations, we're going to be afraid.
如果可能我们内心中还有我爱值的话，然后呢，这个时候你如果遭遇到一些令人紧张、害怕的这种情况的话，我们是会就是内心是有恐惧的。
Can I say something about your first question? When I talked about being on the panel with the person and saying that, and being asked about compassion for oneself, and when I said, no, compassion is for others. Compassion is this wish to remove the suffering of others. Then after the conference, he came up to me, this monk, and he said, you know, in modern psychology, we talk about the importance of having compassion towards oneself. So that's where I learned about what you were asking about.
看人目前补充一点，就是刚才提到他参加在印度的一个主题讨论的时候，那位同行的法师向他提出来，能不能谈一谈对自我的这种悲心？然后看人目前认为，对自我谈不上悲心二字，悲心是针对希望他人帮助他人弥补得乐，帮助他人把痛苦去除。那这个会议过后呢？这个法师过来向他补充说，不过是在现代心理学的范畴里面，是会谈到对自我产生悲心的。这个也是这个因缘，看人目前由此知道了现代西方心理学的这样的一些观点。
But I think it's important to take care of oneself. If we have to take care of ourselves in order to be able to care for others.
当然，我确实认为我们应该要照顾好自己，只有把自己管理好、照顾好，才谈得上能够去帮助他人。
I think it's actually part of the Bodhisattva vows that we will not harm our own bodies. And that is because our body is the vehicle, is the tool by which we can be of benefit to others.
我想菩萨戒里面也应该涉及到，我们不能够自残身体，因为这个身体是一个很好的工具，借由它来，我们可以更好的去帮助他人、服务他人、帮助众生。这个是我们组的相关的问题啊。也是谈到第一个是问。我执和我爱执的区别，在日常生活中又该如何断离？The first question from our team is concerning about how to differentiate self-grasping or self-attachment from self-cherishing. How to differentiate these two concepts, and then in daily life, how can we really get rid of both?
Okay, I think that's a question this is sort of like a technical question. And I think that in our normal practice, when we talk about, we're talking about selfishly motivated behavior. And I leave it more general, so that self-cherishing and self-grasping, I would think of them pretty much as the same. There are technical differences.
Let me cut in as the point of clarification. When we say self-grasping, we mean that that's the root reason why we are in samsara. Why
Correct.
We have all sorts of illusions
Correct.
about ourselves and the world.
Correct. Self-grasping is so there's a sense of self. In order for there to be self-cherishing, there has to be self-grasping. Self-grasping is the root of samsara, yes.
我觉得从粗浅的层面呢，两者是接近，甚至是可以等同的。那么还有一种说法呢，可以说这个我们是在谈论是由自私的动机所驱使而产生的行为。那么细分起来呢，可以说我执是轮回之根本因，因为先有了自我，先有了我执，才会产生我爱执。
But this is something which the geshes debate each other about. This is like a technical matter.
当然，这两者 何以区分呢？经常是众位格西们进行辩论的一个话题，所以它呢也是佛教教理上的一个蛮技术性的一个问题。
But let's say we each have some sense of me, and we all believe in that. And it is that belief in a sense of me that causes me to protect myself, keep anything that challenges my sense of happiness away, and hold on and wish for anything that will make me happy. So that sense of me is the poison. The sense of me and my cherishing it, my caring for it, is what causes actions that cause me to suffer.
那么我可以这样来讲，首先呢，我们每一个人都会有一个自我的一个意识，有了这个意识之后呢，围绕着这个自我的意识，我们就开始去小心翼翼的去呵护它、保护它，趋利避害。避免受到痛苦，愿意抓取出这个快乐。那么由这个自我的意识就衍生出来一系列的，为了保护这种由自我而产生的，要维系自我的快乐，要避开自我的痛苦这一系列行为，而恰恰是这些行为又导致了我们陷入了痛苦之中。
So just to the me that I'm grasping at, if we really analyze, we will not find it. We will actually be able to establish that it does not exist.
那么我们这个百般呵护的这个自我的概念经过我们详加考察的话，是不存在的，是经不起分析的。
So grasping at this non-existent self is what causes action, and those actions are what then cause us to suffer.
那么对于这个子虚乌有并不存在的自我的概念呢，我们又进一步去抓掘它，去保护它，由此而产生的一系列行为，恰恰使我们陷入了各种各样的痛苦之中。
Yeah.
The second part of this question is that how to, get rid of both in our daily life. 在日常生活中如何断？
How to get rid of faults?
Both self-grasping and self-cherishing in our daily life. Basically, how to sort of practice on a daily basis in real life.
So, if we work at developing bodhicitta, and if we work at developing compassion and love for others, we are diminishing our self-cherishing. We are also diminishing our self-grasping. But the real antidote to self-grasping is developing the wisdom realizing emptiness.
那在我们的日常生活中，如果我们真正的发起真实无伪的菩提心，对他人有这样的关爱、悲心、慈悲的话呢，我们的自我抓取这个我爱自就会相应的缩减。但是真正的从根本上来对治我执和我爱执的真正的良药或者对治方法，就是去证悟空性的智慧。下面就是关于我们主讨论，就是关于修自他相换的有3种层面的纠结第一种就是说，刚开始修的时候就怕万一真正别人的痛苦真正换到自己身上来了，自己承受不了。那么后来呢，又听说到这个目前达不到那个境界，那达不到的时候，马上就有一种很轻松的感觉。但这个时候会不会又修的时候又不真诚了，就感觉是一种作秀。第3个层面就是说，因为腿疼，那么来修自他相换，结果发现居然戏剧性的腿就不疼了，那就发现这个是很有效的一个秘密疗法，所以每次腿疼都修。 但是感觉这样以后好像一种偷心就停止了，所以就是说这三种纠结。So next is about like 3 puzzlements concerning self-other exchange practice. Firstly, I was firstly worried, what if that it really happened that I part or all of others' suffering or disease, have entered my body. So I worry that, I really cannot bear it. And secondly, when I heard that, okay, right now I cannot achieve that level that I can really take other suffering. So I have great relief. But does that mean that I will lose my sincerity in this practice? So I really doubt that maybe that will not be successful in this practice without sincerity. And thirdly, I have a leg ache. So I started to practice this, and dramatically and miraculously, my ache was no more there. So I find that this practice serves as a secret therapy for my disease. But when I practice, if I have this kind of mindset, that also shows lack of sincerity. It's just like, I'm just doing it for myself. So 3 puzzlements.
So, I may not be answering the questions directly, but I'll talk a little bit about this. Rinpoche mentioned, if we're in the hospital and we're sick, at that time, if we can imagine that our illness is the suffering of all others, and if we can think like that we are taking on the suffering of others and we're providing them with health, then we are using our illness in a constructive way.
那我呢，可能不会直接的回答所有的问题，但是我会围绕这个问题展开阐述。仁波切曾经提到过，如果我们因病住院，这个时候呢，如果观想，在生病的时候，我们能够把所有的病痛能够给予我们自己一生。那么如果是能这样来观想的话呢，我们就能实际上是一种建设性的将病痛转为道用。
That will not necessarily cure you of your disease, but it will provide you with a lot of merit.
刚才补充一点哈，不光是把别人的病痛这个吸收过来，同时还要把自己的健康回馈给分享给其他人。那仁波切讲说，这样呢，并不必然会治愈你的疾病病痛，但是它会给你带来很大的福德。
Now, I don't think that we should approach spiritual practice as we are trying to increase the merit in our bank account. We should do it truly out of a wish to remove the suffering of others. But this imaginary process of thinking that we are removing it and that our suffering is, or our illness is in fact our accomplishment of removing it, that's a wonderful attitude to have.
Sorry, I missed the last part. But of course, it's not kind of accumulation error in the bank. We should sincerely wish to remove suffering from others.
Yeah, that's what we should concentrate on, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's
but
it.
You mentioned the outcome of like, if in reality the disease will be cured.
No, it won't be. No.
Okay, so this is a very positive attitude.
It's just very good from a spiritual point of view. That's the best. If we can, when we are suffering, if we can think, if we can imagine that we are taking on the suffering of others.
Yeah. 那么 我们在从事精神性的修行的时候呢，不能够是一种很功利性的认为我们是在给自己的精神银行里积累这个福德的资金。但是呢，每当我们自己经受痛苦的时候，我们能够由此观想，希望能够带众生受苦，然后将圆满福德回报给众生，这是一种非常好的态度。
So there was a wonderful Lama who was a teacher of Chungla Rinpoche's, who came to New York and gave a talk 40 years ago, and he was talking about this.
大概在40多年前，琼拉仁波切的一位老师来到了纽约，这是一位很棒的老师。他呢，在这个开始中专门谈到了这个问题。
He said, "We cannot take on the suffering of others. The other person's suffering is the result of his or her non-virtuous actions. It's his karma. We can't take that away from them."
他谈到说，我们其实是并不能带别人受苦的，因为他人之苦是基于他人的不善行、恶行所导致的恶果，所以个人的因果个人背。
But we can wish to.
但是我们可以这样去发愿，去希望这样。
And then he said, "I heard of one person who wished to remove the suffering of some very sick person, and he was able to do so, and then he died."
然后这位师父就说：“他说我是听说过某人，他是在修持自他相换，希望带别人来生病，结果他真的得上这个病，而且还最后因此去世了。”
And then he said, "That's wonderful."
然后他说：“这很棒。”
So I leave you with that. Think about it.
我把这个作为一个开放性的结尾，给大家，供大家继续省思。
Okay.
有一个 personal question， 我还是等到最后。Well, it's a personal question from me. 这是一个我个人的问题啊，就是针对现在呢，在世界的不同地方，我们都能够听闻到有名或者不有名的上师传来各式各样的丑闻，这个呢会让他的弟子呢，或者是一般的教徒产生相当程度的困惑啊。那怎么来解读这个现象？那回到藏传讲究观察上师啊，要经过数年的认真的、彻底的观察之后，慎重的做出决定是否依止这位上师。但是，一旦依止过后呢，就应当无条件的听从上师的教诲，而不应该再产生疑惑。那么，同时呢，焦仁波切也讲说，如果你发现你的上师，即便是你的上师有不端的行为，那么就应该去揭露，这个也不会违反三昧耶戒。所以呢，就回到一个您怎么来看待出现这样的情况以后，我们当何以为之 ？So this is a personal question. So in today's world, from time to time, we will encounter so-called scandals of gurus, of this and of either very well-known or unknown gurus. Scandals of this or that kind of sort. When we study Tibetan Buddhism, it's never overestimated that how important it is to observe a potential guru beforehand. But as long as you, after careful observation, if you decide to follow him or her, there should be no doubt. You should just so blindly follow him or her. But meanwhile, Java Rinpoche emphasized, even if he or she is your guru, if you find something wrong, you can still expose that without being without breaking your samaya vow. So what's your interpretation?
不知道. I really don't know. I think that the advice that I would give you is really very carefully scrutinize someone before taking them on to be your teacher. Really take the time to ensure that that person is a worthy and valid teacher. That's time well spent.
我只能给出的建议就是，在你确定要移植这位上师之前的话，一定要详加考察、详加观察，而不是轻易的决定做出任何决定。这样的详加考察的时间是完全值得的。
I've never heard Gyalwa Rinpoche say that one should expose one's own teacher's faults. It may be that one can expose the faults of teachers, but I've never heard it said that one should expose the faults of one's own teacher. Yeah, your own teacher. I've never heard it said anywhere that one should expose the faults of one's own teacher. Exposing the faults of someone who is a teacher, who is not one's own teacher, but who is a teacher, that might be a different subject.
至于我本人从来没有听到这个加外仁波切在任何地方提到过，你可以去检举你自己的老师啊，无论是老师还是上师的这种错误。那么你可以去检举或者揭发一个人的错误，这个人呢可能是一个老师，这个是另外一个话题。但是至于你自己老师的这个所谓错误啊，要不要去检举揭发，这个我没有听到过加外仁波切有肯定的答复。
But again, on this subject, I will say what is important is how we behave ourselves. And so take examples of people, whether they are teachers, whether they are politicians, whether they are, whatever they happen to be, of let's say, improper moral or ethical behavior, and they can serve as warnings to us. But the spiritual work that we're doing is not on our teacher. The spiritual work that we're doing is on ourselves.
我还想强调一点，这个重点是在要把目光投向自我，反观自身。那么我们看到，无论是这个老师或者是政客，他们一旦有所谓的这种，特别是道德方面的不端的行为的时候呢，这个应该是成为对于我们的一个警钟、一个警示。在这个精神修持的道路上呢，从来不是说是我们是去看别人的这样的这种模式，而是要把目光投向自身。Sorry to clarify, in a spiritual path, it's not for us to look at others, especially these teacher or politicians' faults, rather than look at ourselves. Is what you want to say?
I'm saying there are a lot of mistakes that we can see others commit. What we're doing is trying to become better people ourselves.
当然，我们永远都可以谈到各式各样的有他人所犯下的错误，但是精神修持的重要核心是在于我们自己怎么样成为更好的人。
下一个问题是，观想供养他人的东西，比如说车展的车，给佛陀，那这对破除自己的贪执有帮助吗？ 也就是说这个观想好像不是很困难，这样真的对破除自己的贪执有帮助吗？When we visualize making offering to the Buddha using things belongs to others, let's say, for example, mother's car, does that really helpful to eliminate one's own attachment? This kind of visualization doesn't seem quite difficult. It doesn't sound difficult. It's really helpful to help eliminate our own attachment.
So when you're offering someone else's car or jewelry or whatever, don't get caught. Sometimes it's probably better not to tell them. You do it inside. If you are truly doing it inside, if you are admiring something beautiful and you offer it, yes, it definitely helps you develop generosity.
就是如果我们是在内心做这个供养的动作，那如果呢，我们是在真的认为某一些事物呢非常的美好，然后将这些美好的事物呢供养出去，那的确的也是在做一种慷慨布施的那种行为。
I've heard Rinpoche say, if you are a married couple and you bring flowers into your house and you put them there, and the person will think that you are offering it to them, but you're offering it to the Buddhas. I think it's okay.
Well, just to clarify, Rinpoche says that if you offer the flower to the married couple.
No. When you're living, or you offer to your girlfriend or whatever.
Your husband or wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're actually. Actually, what he said is, if you bring flowers home and you put them there, the people in the home may think that you're offering to them, but you've brought them home, and without putting them on the altar, without making a big thing of it, you from your side are offering, and everyone is happy.
就是针对刚才说的，就是你没有必要尽人皆知这一点，然后继续补充说，琼拉仁波切曾经提到过，如果你给自个儿家里带回一束鲜花的话。也不用隆重的放在佛堂里或者哪里，或者很大的花瓶里，就是带回家，全家人呢皆大欢喜，认为你给家里面的家人带来了这个花的礼物，但其实你的心中呢是把它作为供养在供佛，但其实大家呢又很欢喜。
下一个问题是，因为要让自己保有一份工作，所以要给老板好好工作。那让自己保有一份工作，这是不爱子吗？In the teaching today, we were taught that we should work hard for our boss in order to keep our job. So keeping our job a form of self-cherishing?
Keeping our job. If you are working in order to make the money to survive, in order that you can devote yourself to your practice and support your family, I think that it's fine. Self-cherishing is something that if we are doing it for the money, we're fiddling with mental. Your motivation is something that changes all the time.
就是说，我们如果呢，我们这个工作赚 工作赚钱的目的呢是要来维持我们的修行，还有维持我们的家庭。那这个并不一定是这个我爱值。那可是我们这边要了解到呢，我们这个念头是时时刻刻在变动的，我们的动机是时时刻刻在变动的。
So, I think it's good to be nice to your boss. I think it's good to work hard. As a result of being nice to your boss and working hard, you will get paid well.
那我认为呢，为你的老板好好工作，而且努力工作是一件好事的。那由于这样做的结果呢，就是说你的待遇会很好。
If you are doing that in order to make money so that you can, let's say, come here for this retreat, wonderful.
如果这样做的结果呢，是让你能够来这边听法，那这是非常好的一件事。
If you are making the money so that you can go on a holiday and just have fun and maybe waste the money, then maybe you're indulging in things that are more selfish and more on the side of self-cherishing.
如果呢，你想要赚更多钱的目的呢，是去度假，然后浪费这些金钱，那么这样做呢，就会比较偏向有自私或者有自爱子的那一面。下一个问题是修取舍法时，为什么要修取法呢？要取别的，为什么要特意去取别的痛苦，而不是发愿去除他们的苦因呢？When we practice Tonglen and take assume suffering and say, what's the reason to assume suffering from others? Why not simply help being to remove their causes of suffering? What's the purpose of assuming their suffering? Because in the teaching today, the Buddha said that we can remove the suffering of beings only if we achieve Buddhahood and teach them what to do and what not to do.
So, in the Tonglen practice, you can include an important visualization where you have a sense of self at the heart, which is like a flame. And as you take on the suffering of others, you are diminishing the flame. And as you breathe out, you are providing others with happiness. So the flame is the flame. At our hearts, we have this self-cherishing. And by the attitude of wishing to take on the suffering of others, that in itself diminishes our self-cherishing.
就是我们在做这个取舍法的修习的时候呢，就是说我们可以加入一个元素，就是说我们要观想呢，我们内心有我执，那这个就是有我的这种觉受，这种我的觉受呢是一种火焰的方式来呈现的。所以这个时候呢，当我们就吸气，然后把别人的痛苦吸进来的时候呢，那所以的观想呢，这个吸进来的痛苦呢，就可以降低我们内心中的我执所以呢，把内心中的那个我执的火焰。所以呢，简而言之呢，修这个取舍法的目的呢，这个取别的痛苦呢，就是要降低我们内心的我爱情。
因为现在是5分钟，6分钟所以就是这边有2个问题是关于跟这个课程没有直接关系，但是跟很多人他们都会有关系的题目这样。
请问仁波切，佛教怎么样去看待同性恋呢？我有家人是同性恋，他不是佛教徒，也没有宗教。我是佛教徒，我应该怎么样去对待他呢？感恩仁波切。 Could you make comment on how Buddhism what's a Buddhist view about homosexuality? And one of my family members is a vaccine or is homosexual, and she's not a Buddhist, and she does not follow any religion. And as a Buddhist, how should I deal with her, or how?
So, Buddhist practice is a process of diminishing self-cherishing and developing concern for others. Diminishing our tendency to act in selfish ways, often at the mercy of others, and developing a concern for others.
佛教修行的目的呢，这是有两个面向。第一个呢是要降低我们的我爱值，那第二个呢是要增长我们对他人的关切。
You're asking me the question, and so I will say that to judge another person's sexual preferences is in no way relevant to my work on myself of diminishing my self-cherishing and developing selflessness.
你现在问我这个问题呢，我的看法是，你要去就分别他人的这种性倾向呢，跟你自己要降低我爱值，还有不是增长对别人的关爱，是完全无关的。
We wish for the happiness of heterosexuals, homosexuals, everyone. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be free of suffering.
我们修行的目的呢，是要针对无论这个人是否是同性恋呢，我们都希望他能够获得安乐，远离痛苦。最后一个问题是，请问下生应该希求哪一种去处才能利益到自己以及众生呢？是去西方是去极乐世界继续修行呢，还是再来出国世界的下生继续修行呢？What place should I inspire to be more in my next life in order to benefit myself and sentient beings? Should I pray to be born in Amitabha's Pure Land, or come back to the world and obtain a human body with the opportunity and matter to continue practicing?
I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. I would recommend that you work hard on your development of compassion. You work hard on your diminishment of selfish and self-cherishing, and that you pray that you may be able to take rebirth in a place where you can continue your work towards becoming a Buddha to be able to help all sentient beings.
我会建议你好好努力修行，增长自己的悲心，以及降低自己的我爱值。接着呢，你可以去祈愿呢，能够投身到一个地方，然后呢，投身到最能够帮助你，就是说成佛，然后利益众生的这个地方，你可以做这样的祈愿。最后一个问题，坦白说要利益无量的有情，我无法想象怎么可以做到，会感到恐惧。 To be honest, I cannot imagine how can one really benefit an infinite amount of sentient beings. I cannot imagine how that can be done. And then when I think of this, I have fear.
I'm glad that's not a question. But I'll speak to it. I think that if we are here with a wish to cultivate bodhicitta, with a wish to develop the determination to work towards becoming a Buddha, to help others, engage in this practice slowly but steadily. Initially, you imagine that you are removing the suffering of others. You imagine that you're providing them with happiness. And slowly but steadily, the ability will develop.
我这边可以补充一点，就是我们坐在这边呢，就学习怎么样去升起菩提心，去学习怎么样就是希愿怎么样成佛，然后来利有情。我们可以做这样的希愿，就为利有情愿成的都是希愿。我们可以不断的持续慢慢的，但是持续的修行。那渐渐的呢，我们总有一天呢，我们这个能够利益很多有情，这种能力呢，会慢慢呈现。
And work at it. When you come across someone in the street, smile and think that you're smiling at him and at everyone, and at all sentient beings, and take that attitude in what you do, and that has an effect. That will actually have an effect on all sentient beings. Smile to one person, smile thinking that you're smiling to everyone.
当我们在街上遇到某个人的时候呢，我们可以练习对他微笑。但是在微笑的时候呢，你不要单单只想你是对某个人微笑，而是对着所有有情在微笑。那你这样做呢，你会可能有一天会看到它的效果。
But I must say, I was walking around Hong Kong and I was smiling. People didn't like it very much.
不是说呢，我在那个香港的街道上走路的时候呢，我会对人笑，但是人们好像不太接受。
They looked away. In India, if you smile, the person smiles, everyone smiles.
在印度呢，当你对某个人笑的时候呢，对方呢，还有其他人呢，也会跟你笑。
I have to try a little harder.
必须要再努力试看看。
But the nice thing about smiling is that it makes you happy, and it makes the other person happy.
但是呢，微笑的好处呢，是你不但可以让自己开心，也可以让别人快乐。
Thank you.
当众请起立，恭送天红线。
Sorry, yeah? I don't know how to turn that one.
那接下来。